Welcome back to the Football Tragics. I'm your host, Aaron, joined here by Tony and Morty. What was it been a week since we've catched up? Missed a week of the Prem, but it's match week 8 now, so we've skipped a week. Campo's not here. Probably the only one who I would have loved to hear from this week after an absolute demolition of Leicester. But that's not our first game. Our first game we're going to get into is Villa versus Southampton. Tony, I'm going to start with you. Stevie G here picked up probably one of the bigger wins in his career. He's kind of hanging on to his job for a minute, isn't he?
Yeah, 100%. Both of these managers are obviously fighting to hold on to their jobs. So for Steven Gerrard to obviously get this result, not only does it keep them, I guess, in a better position, but it also keeps him in a job for at least that international break. Because if they would have lost this game, who knows what would have happened over that week and a half before they got back into the Premier League season. So massive win for Stevie G and Villa.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a good little break had they have lost. Morty, do you think had they have lost, this would have been the end of Stevie G at Villa?
Possibly, because it's hard to say because we haven't had a World Cup fall this disruptive to a season, and usually you say you give them till Christmas and then you can get another manager in to get them to safety, but at this point, Villa, how many players are actually going away on international duty? It's probably not that many. You could say he's going to have plenty of time with his people to train through this time, and I don't know, maybe they hold on to that as kind of the way that he holds on to his job for at least the season, I guess. I think they're probably still going to give him the season. I think you can't have backed him through the transfer market. I say that, tongue in cheek when you look what Chelsea did, but can't have backed him through the transfer market, given him all this stuff, just knowing that, three or four bad results and you're going to throw him out the door straight away. So I think he's still right.
You speak on the international, the World Cup, sorry, but that's still, a month away, if not more, a couple months away. And there's going to be 8 games, 10 games, if not more, between now and then. So, I mean, can you give them until then, even if, they go and lose the next 5, 6? It's a results business. And if they, like you said, they can give them till the end of the World Cup and the next transfer window, but does it even make it that far? This is a good win for them. They needed it, but they're still sitting in 15th, 7 points after 7 games. It's not great for a Villa team who I think ideally would have been pushing for top half finish this season.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think at least the first 10 matches, you're still kind of figuring out the league. I mean, we've seen some teams beat people they shouldn't have, and in the end of it, you look at it and go, okay, well, maybe there's probably some fair results for Villa coming up through it. They haven't had those, scrapfest games. They haven't played Leicester. They haven't played all these other teams where you just basically 3 free points at this point. So I think after 10, maybe, I don't know. But who knows how many games we're actually going to get through, because we've got international breaks already corrupting half of this. We've got someone died, that old Queen Lizzie.
There shouldn't be any other interruptions, I don't think, between now and the World Cup.
Mate, like you said, taken over by a 72-year-old.
Yeah, the next 5 games are quite important, Aaron. They play Leeds and they play Nottingham. They do play Chelsea with a new manager, Fulham, and then Brentford. So you'd be looking at potentially trying to win at least 2 of those games, draw 1. If he doesn't get at least 7-8 points from that, I think we could see him gone before the start of the World Cup.
Yeah. Did you say Leeds was that first game?
Leeds is the first game back.
Yeah, so I think, like you said, Leeds and Forest, they're massive. I think at least 4 points out of that is needed. Otherwise, I think a loss against Forest, for example, wouldn't be ideal scenarios for him. But yeah, I don't know if I can see him lasting until the win. It doesn't seem like things are going great. Again, this result, it's a good result, but it was against a team who they had 7 shots, only 1 on target. So they're misfiring in a way, although they are playing some decent football this season. Southampton defensively are pretty solid, and they've showed that this season. But yeah, misfiring. So against a team that is taking their chances, I mean, they're going to get punished. So I don't think he lasts until even the World Cup. I think he's gone within the month. But it'd be interesting to see if they can turn their season around with or without him. Speaking of Forest, though, big game here. Lost 3-2. I mean, this game had it all. I mean, you look at the score and you probably think Fulham scored 3 goals. How did Mitrovic not score one of them? Morty, talk to us, mate. How are Fulham absolutely smashing it this season? They're sitting 6th right now.
this is just the championship coming through. I mean, Nottingham, they've already played each other all last season, so they knew exactly what they're coming up against. Other than the fact Nottingham Forest have a whole new team, but take that as you will. What are they up to? Like 25 signings or something?
22?
Yeah, some bonkers amount basically. But I mean, Fulham are doing exactly what Brentford did last season. I think we'll see it. They're finally not pulled to Fulham, and they've actually won some games. But I don't see it lasting that whole season again. They might be saved by the World Cup breaking it up for that extended time, but it just time and time again you see a championship team, they come in, they kill it for the start, everyone underestimates them, then everyone kind of rates them, they play to their game, and then they kind of fizzle out towards that end. They're safe. You never think they're going back down, but they're just there, and you're looking towards that next season to what they can build on. So yeah, I think that's where Fulham are at. Nottingham Forest, they should have made 30 signings because they're still. I don't know what they've done. I don't know. They've done whatever they could to get up, and then they've got up, and they've gone, well, we've done everything we can. But they should have just played it cool. Like maybe make half the signings, re-sign some of the players they already had on loan. Like they've just gone out and got a whole bunch of new people. Like I don't really understand that.
I think the difference between Fulham and Brentford, so Fulham this season, Brentford last season, is Brentford were quite defensively solid, whereas Fulham, I think, they're just throwing it at teams. They're scoring goals, so maybe they do concede 2, but they're confident they can score 3. And I mean, even when Mitch doesn't score, they still go and score 3. So I think it's impressive. Like they had 7 shots on target out of 15. Again, against a team like Southampton who had 1 from 7. So they're firing on all cylinders. And like you said, they've started the season strong, and that's most important for a team that's come up, because if you don't get your points early, then your back's against the wall. You're struggling. You've got to play catch up. So to come out firing early on is good. How far can they go? Where can they finish? I don't know. I mean, they haven't played anybody of massive stature just yet, have they?
They've played Liverpool, Arsenal, and Tottenham.
All right, well, to throw my fucking shit out the window because I've lost it, mate. A week off and I've lost it. There you go. They've played some big names. They did lose against Arsenal. They lost
2-1 to Arsenal and Tottenham, and they drew with Liverpool.
Nothing against Fulham here, but I think Liverpool, they got them on a good day. They got them at the beginning of the season. I think, again, if you play them a month from now, Liverpool probably do put a few past them. But again, that's a result. You take it. 1 point for against Liverpool, you take it regardless. But again, those 2 results, like you said, against Spurs and Arsenal, they did lose. They did take it to them, but they did lose. But again, pick up these points early, and who knows where the season can take you. Tony, what are your thoughts then?
Oh, I mean, I did it from the predictions. I was the only one that had Fulham staying up out of the 4 of us. Quite honestly, like you said, they didn't beat Arsenal. They didn't beat Tottenham. However, they're beating the teams that they need to beat. They've gone against the Brighton. They've beaten them. They've gone against Nottingham Forest. They've beaten them. They've gone against Brentford. They've beaten them. These top 6, top 7, top 8 clubs, it doesn't really matter if you're sitting in Fulham's position. It's try and get a result, try and get a draw like we did against Liverpool, and beat up those teams that are around us.
Well, that's what I was getting at, but I didn't realise who that actually played. But yeah, like I said, exactly right. Fulham, who knows? They could do well. Speaking of a team that obviously is doing well and will continue to, Man City, 3-0 over Wolves. It was just a clinic. Erling Haaland show. Doesn't have to touch the ball often, but still scores. De Bruyne, the bloke is going to get 30 assists this season the way he's playing. And again, with Haaland finishing him off. So impressive. Wolves didn't offer a great deal. They looked all right to start the game, but then again, they went down 1-2-0, and then a red card happened, and that's just their game plan out the window. Tony, with Haaland in your fantasy team, what's your thoughts on City? How far can they go? Are they winning the league by 20 points this season or what?
It's a tough one because obviously there's teams around them are starting to beat up other teams. I do think City win the league. I did say Liverpool in my predictions, but I do think City wins the league. Haaland's just a different beast. It's kind of that nothing's on, kick it into the box, and Haaland's going to be there somewhere to knock it in the back of the net. But for me, obviously, it's not just my fantasy. It is the boys' fantasy as well. Obviously, with our EPL fantasy, we are running second in the Football Capital Cup. So hopefully he keeps firing and City do drop a few points, but I think they're going to run this league and hopefully they don't win the Champions League.
Haaland will break the goal scoring record Would you like 32 in a 36 game season, or sorry, 38? I think it's 34 in a 40 game season. So you'd think he scores 40, right? He's already on 11. Sorry,
Um,
11.
Yeah, you know what? He should do it. He should do it quite comfortably, but we've seen strikers do this before and start a season absolutely firing. I think Son's a perfect example. Golden boot last year, and until this week was dropped because he wasn't performing, he comes off with a hat trick. So it's a tough one, but if he keeps playing how he's playing, 32, 33, 35, whatever you want to say, the sky's the limit for Haaland in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Son. How about Salah last season? He was quite clear for a while, and then he went. How many games was it, Morty, that he didn't score for? Probably like 8 or 9 or something, I believe, and then finally scored in that final game.
Something like that, yeah.
So he had a big drought. I mean, I just think Haaland he's got it easy.
Hold on, time out. We talk about Salah. I think 25 of his goals were against United, so does it really count for Golden Boot?
But I just think with Haaland, it's just so easy for him. He doesn't have to really work for his goals. Maybe 1 or 2 of those goals he's worked for. He scored his first goal from outside the box this week. Like, they put it on an absolute platter for him. He just has to be in that right spot. And I think with him breaking that record, which I think will happen, there's no reason why De Bruyne doesn't break the assist record as well at the same time. I think it's 20 or 21, the record. But look, yeah, it's with Haaland, I think it's the main thing is he is pretty injury prone. I think he only played like 20, 25 games, all competitions last season. So if he stays fit, he'll be right. Also, he's not playing in the World Cup, so he'll have that break there. So that could benefit him. That could give him that time off that he needs, where usually he'd pick up an injury. So yeah, I think they've got to comfortably win the league. I think they've shown enough already, and I think they're too strong for any other team. Let's move into a couple of teams who, had a good battle here. It was 1-1 between Newcastle and Bournemouth. Tony, what were your thoughts on this one? Should Newcastle have performed better and got a better result here?
I actually watched this game. Obviously, like we mentioned at the start of the show, there wasn't many games on this weekend. None of our teams actually featured. So the only one that did feature was Campo, and he's not here. But this result doesn't tell the whole story. Newcastle absolutely dominated Bournemouth, start to finish. I don't have the stats in front of me, but from memory, I reckon it's about 65, 70% possession.
73.
Newcastle. 73, there you go. Newcastle probably had 15 to 20 shots. So
20, yeah.
So like they were all over him. Bournemouth obviously got him on that counter. They got the goal. I think they were ahead for all of 2-3 minutes. Newcastle get the penalty. Isak scores his first goal in front of that home crowd. So that was a big fin, and then Bournemouth kind of just held on. So for Newcastle, you won all 3 points. It's probably 2 points dropped, but for Bournemouth, a massive point picked up.
Yeah, well, we spoke about Fulham. They're performing well, and they're on 11 points. But Bournemouth, they're on 8, and that's good enough for them, I think, at this point as well. Newcastle, I do think this is a couple of points dropped. Like you said, they dominated this game from start to finish. They were only behind for a minute or two, so the motivation was there to kick on. But, yeah, I think they probably should have done better here at home. But, look, again, 8 points from 7 games for them also, 10th spot. They're probably sitting right around where they want to be at this point in the season. So fair play to them. Morty, what were your thoughts on this one?
Look, they're doing okay. Newcastle, it is. They have had some injuries. The key signing, Guimaraes, he's played about 2 games all season. And, St. Maximum's played, again, 2 games all season pretty much. And I kind of think they're the 2 that are probably going to carry them forward this thing. Isak's probably going to, he's going to score some goals, but, Gucci, as we call him, you got the old Gucci headband. He's just shown that he can create nothing. He just has no one. He's had no one in the middle that can put him away. They've got Callum Wilson there now as well. They got Isak coming on. They're going to start firing. And, Isak's already shown he's hungry. I don't know if it's going to last all season, but he's definitely hungry for some goals. And they'll be scary come towards the end of the season, and they'll be pushing for Europe. So.
I always love seeing a striker, like especially a new striker, to step up and take penalties, because you need goals to get off the mark. You want to score goals to get your legs firing, I suppose. So it's really good to see a new striker just come in and say, "Yeah, penalties are mine." Haaland did it. Isak's done it. He's already scored against Liverpool, and now this game he took the penalty. I just think that some of the players that I think you see in the Prem flop here and there are the ones that just aren't confident from the start. I think if you score the easier ones, it just really gives you that motivation to kick on. So fair play to Isak. I do think he'll score a few goals this season. And yeah, Newcastle looking all right. Bournemouth, good result. Let's get into this one. And I think Morty, you still question how Brendan Rodgers still has a job. Spurs 6-2 over Leicester. Look, I was working this game and I think, Leicester went up 1-0. Then they clawed it back to 2-2. And I'm thinking, fair play. And then they just absolutely fell apart. Spurs, like Tony said, brought on Son, who banged 3 goals in 13 minutes or something ridiculous. And yeah, it finishes 6-2, which just does not flatter Leicester at all. Morty, what were your thoughts on this one?
The fact they haven't replaced Schmeichel in goal is just appalling. Danny Ward he could single-handedly get them relegated himself. Son's goals, crackers and all, but Ward was nowhere to be seen. He's like on the other side of the goal. Absolutely, he's in no man's land, and it's quite questionable. But yeah, I get you say. How does Rodgers have a job? I mean, we've seen managers get sacked over less. You've seen managers walk out I don't know. Like Leicester, they won under Ranieri, and 2 seasons later they're gone. Rodgers has done nothing for about 5 now, and he's still there, and he's getting worse. Just show him the door, piss him off, and hold on, because there is quality in that team. Like, you've got Maddison, you've got Tillemans. Yeah, they just lost Fofana. There's quality that they've scouted out, and they're losing them because they're not winning nothing, and they're not going to win nothing there. So, yeah, sad times ahead.
I can feel for them in the fact they didn't recruit like they should have. I mean, they signed a replacement for Fofana on the last day. They should have had that ready, knowing that Fofana was probably going to go this window regardless. They should have had that lined up early. Jamie Vardy's getting old. They've got Patson Daka up top. Look, they've got like you said, they've got quality there, but they're not firing on all cylinders really either. James Maddison's trying his heart out, but he can't do it alone. Harvey Barnes isn't probably performing how he should be. Tillemans playing well, but again, he's probably going to be off soon as well. I do feel for Rodgers because, again, they just haven't signed the players they need to. But 1 point from 7 games for a Leicester is just unacceptable, and it comes down to the manager, I think, at that point. I think it's probably the easiest pick, that the fact that we all saw this coming from last season. The way they ended last season was terrible. So I think this was probably the easiest one to think that Leicester are not in for a good season. But realistically, Tony, can they get relegated? Will they get relegated?
Oh, I mean, we've all made that joke from champions to relegation. It's a tough one. I think they're a massive chance. Obviously, we look at Fulham coming up. They've performed well. Obviously, Nottingham Forest, although the points are showing they are playing somewhat decent football, they do have a new squad. So at some point in the season, that squad's going to come together and you're going to see that talent go through. So if I was a betting man, I'd say 80% no. However, I do think there is that slight 15, 20% chance they go down. But before we move on, Big Morty having a go at Ward in goals, mate. Did you see your 6-a-side goalkeeping on the last Thursday night, man? I wouldn't be talking too much about Wardy in that.
Mate, they slotted at bottom corners. I was just not quick enough to the ground, all right? I only conceded minimal compared to Bailey. Call him Bailey out.
To be fair, guys, like you said, Danny Ward, he's not been at fault for really many of the goals they've conceded, but I think it just shows that, like, not Peter Schmeichel, he'd be good. Kasper Schmeichel had a great save percentage last season, and is it one of those players who is just so influential in the dressing room, and he was the captain for the club for many years. It just play like that. It's just, I think, makes the world a difference, whether he's saving him or not. I just think having that leader in the dressing room probably helps them. So to lose him for what was it, like $1 million or whatever to France, and they didn't really sign a big name keeper. They just kind of went, yeah, no worries, we can probably survive with someone. But I just don't think there's enough figures in that dressing room now. Vardy's getting on; he's not really playing as much, so he'll have less of an influence. So yeah, Leicester, Tony, I think I'm with you. I don't think they're going to go down. I think there's an 80% chance that they don't. But the longer they keep with Rodgers, thinking that he can turn it around, is the worry. Because do they keep him for another 5-6 games and fall even further behind and still haven't got a win? Is it too late at that point? So I think Burnley showed it last year. They sacked Sean Dyche and then they turned it around. But then it might have just been too late because it ended up not staying up. So Rodgers, I think he's gone. I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually gone before the international break finishes, like before they play the next game. They're going to have a lot of talks between now and then. Is it a week and a half, whatever? They're going to have a lot of
They
talks.
got Forest.
Yeah, so that'll be
Can't
made.
lose to that.
Well, there you go, Forest. If that has to be the ultimate game that he either wins or he's gone.
Even that, do you do it while all these players are on break? They're away from the stadium. Do it while they sack him in the next 2-3 days. They've got a week to get over it before the players come in. If you're going to do it, you've got to do it now. Because if you do it after Forest, well, you're another week behind the eight ball.
Yeah, exactly. If you do it now, you're giving the manager time to come in and get a team together before the end of the break. But again, it is Forest. It's not as though they're playing Chelsea. Sorry, I'm not going to say Chelsea because we're dog shit right now. It's not as though they're playing City, Spurs, Arsenal, who they know that's 3 points that's gone. So I think they do it now, like Tony says. I agree, and you just get ready to hope the new manager comes in or whoever comes in interim and just gets some early results.
Yeah, well, if you look at their next 5 though, these are almost they need points from every game. They got Forest, Bournemouth, Palace, Leeds, Wolves. Like at minimum, they should be expecting at least a draw out of most of those.
So is that my point? Do they give him 5 more games and it still hasn't turned around because they're not playing good football? And then is it too late then? Because, like you said, those are the games they should be picking up because they don't win those. They then sack him after 5 games, and then the next manager has to come in and play the top 6 and then get no points as well.
It's going to be...
Then that's 10 games gone, and there's 17 games through. It's half a season. They've got 5 points to show for it. Maximum 10 points to show for it.
Yeah, just following that, then they go to City. So if you're leaving the 5 games, you bring in a new manager for those, and he gets slapped up by City. They're in all sorts. You know what, mate? They're going down under Rodgers' helm.
I want to think that it either happens before the international break's done, or he's got until Forest. He's got to pick up a result against Forest, or he's gone. But look, let's get into the team who's sitting on top of the table now. Arsenal, 3-0 winners over Brentford. Comfortable. I was actually kind of scared for Arsenal this game. I thought, Brentford all right this year. They're playing good football. They're a defensively solid team. But no, Arsenal just proved that they're actually contenders, maybe. Tony, what do you think?
I mean, I'm still sitting here trying to figure out how the fuck we conceded 4 goals to this Brentford side. Like, we can sit here and we can say Arsenal's playing good football, this and that, but honestly, this Brentford side didn't look like they got out of first gear. If they play like this for the rest of the season, I think they're in a lot of trouble. Yeah, I don't know. Arsenal, they look great. Don't get me wrong. Gabby got on the score sheet again. I think Saka got on the score sheet, got an assist. There's an absolute cracking goal scored for the third one. But for me, the way Brentford was playing, this needed to be 5-6 goals for Arsenal because we've seen for and against can decide what position you finish in come the end of the season. So fair play to Arsenal. They go into the international break on top of the ladder, but a lot more questions to ask for Brentford rather than praise for Arsenal from this match.
Fair. So still the praise for Arsenal. I mean, I'm kind of in agreement with you. The only big team they've played was United, and you kicked them off the park, really. And I think that was I tipped that. I think that was pretty expected, to be fair, because as good as they are, they're sitting top of the table, and I can't really talk much because we're playing terrible right now. But yeah, I haven't seen. I don't know. I think this should be a 5-0. I think they should be rolling these teams over completely. And again, they are picking the points up against the teams they should be picking up the points against. So they're going to go and play City whenever. And they've got a North London derby against a Spurs team who are again are firing. So that again is a big game for them. That if they don't win that, you got to think, well, no, they're not the real deal. Then they're just an elephant on top of the tree, waiting to fall down. So they've had one big test, they lost it. They've bounced back, but I mean, time will tell, I suppose, with Arsenal. Morty, what do you think? Are we giving them? Do we need to give them praise or?
I think we do. I mean, they've continued the form like that. They had some good form toward the end of that last season, and I think they've carried it through. But their season is going to be relying on Jesus staying fit because they have looked a different squad with him up top, and he might not be scoring every week, but he's just him in behind or the runs they're making is freeing up that midfield a lot more than having a Lacazette up there. Is kind of he turned into a hold-up player, I guess, almost into the last season. did not have the pace whatsoever. But yeah, you sit there and say they should have slapped Brentford 5-0, but City played against 10-man Wolves and scored within 40 seconds and still only mustered 3. So if anyone should have won, they should have been them. But they're doing everything right so far. I can't fault them. They haven't had that bigger challenges, so we'll reserve judgment to those games. But yeah, I think they should be there or thereabouts this season.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Gabriel Jesus and how good he has been for him. I think he's got 4 goals, 3 assists in 7 games, so he's absolutely smashing it. So it is a question if he stays fit, or if something happens to him, then they're not having that backup striker. They've got Eddie Nketiah, who I don't think can score the goals like Jesus can. He can't even play the way Jesus does. Yeah. You saw this game, Odegaard was out with injury, and Fabio Vieira stepped up. Again, that's a player who he's their captain of their club. If he's out for a longer period of time, will they suffer more and against a better team? But yeah, I got to give a little bit of praise, I guess, to Arsenal, because 7 games in, you're top of the table. I mean, you're laughing, but again, I reserve my judgment purely based on the fact that the one good team they played, they've absolutely been played off the park by, Tony's team. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting for them. On Brentford though, they're not in the worst spot either. 9 points in 9th spot from 7 games. I mean, you take that, right? It's a good start for the season for them, Tony.
Oh, it's a great start. Obviously, before I touch on Brentford, give it 20 days. I think once the 11th of October comes around and Arsenal have played Tottenham after the international break and then Liverpool, I think we'll have more of an idea where Arsenal are sitting at. For Brentford, again, we're not expecting them to come in, destroy the table, finish in the top 6. No. Anywhere above, I say about 14th is where Brentford. So they are sitting 9th. My concern is they started so well last year. They fell off the back end. They got back into that relegation story towards the back end of the season. If they do that this year and you have the likes of, let's say, West Ham, Leicester, and let's throw Southampton into the mix who are down in that relegation zone, those are teams that can pick up points come the end of the season. So it just worries me if they don't go put another 2 or 3 results in the next 4 or 5 games, they could be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. And with Brentford, I think they've shown they're one of those teams that they need their main striker, Ivan Toney, to score goals, because without him, they're not scoring goals. So he needs to stay fit. He's got his England call-up, which is impressive. Fair play to him. He deserves it. He's been great. But yeah, if he doesn't keep scoring goals for them, it's going to be tough. We move into the final game of the round. As you guys said, it's less games this week, a few call-offs. Everton, big win again. I think, like Stevie G, Frank Lampard, this is a huge win for him. 1-0 over West Ham. Again, I want to throw the question, how long is David Moyes' job secure for, Tony, given they're sitting at 18th, West Ham? Or do you give him more time?
This is just the Moisey we love to see, isn't it? He comes into a season, goes all right, and then comes into the next season and you go, holy shit, what has gone on here? It's a tough one because you can't just go out there and, we've already spoken about 6 clubs who could potentially sack their manager in the next 3-4 weeks. So I don't think we're going to see a massive onslaught because there's not a lot of capable managers out there that can take those positions and turn a club around. Moisey, I'll probably give him about a month. He's proved that he can save him. If they're still in that relegation zone come the World Cup, get rid of him and start fresh in January. I think for a club like West Ham, with the players like West Ham, they'll be able to do enough if he's gone by January if they're still in relegation.
I think the interesting thing with West Ham is they're doing well in Europe. I know the teams are playing a lot worse in Europe. They're playing in the Conference League, but they're playing better football in the Conference League compared to how they're playing in the Premier League. They're playing just very rigid, boring football in the Prem, but in Europe, they're going at them. I think that just shows that when you're playing a team that you think you should be beating, you take it to them. So they should be taking those kind of performances into the Premier League, and they might be all right. But again, like Leicester, they're on 4 points. They're doing a bit better than Leicester, but I think they have higher expectations as well at this point. So yeah, I think I can agree with you. You give them a bit more time, given that it's Moisey and the season they had last year. You give them a bit more time, and again, how they're performing in Europe. But you wouldn't give them too long. You can't just keep relying on the fact that they've got Moisey. You've got to make that call sooner rather than later, I think, if the results aren't there. Morty, what do you reckon? Does he see out enough? Does he see out the season, or
I think they do. Like he done enough last season to show that he can do it. They're probably just out of form. They need a bit of something else. Bit of I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe another COVID call in. Just get him out of the park again. Put him on the what is it? What we're using? I don't even know. What
The monitor.
The Zoom call on there. And
but how long do you give for a team like Western? How long do you give it though? Because is a 10th place finish or lower than that this season? It's a backward step because of how well they've been going the last few seasons and how much they've been improving. To then go and finish 10th or worse it's a backward step.
Well, that's just where West Ham have to sit. They have to decide now whether they want to be that club, or are we going to get to transfer window next season and Declan Rice is gone. So there's no point sacking Morty's now, saying that we need to be this, and then selling Rice come that season anyway.
I think they've almost missed the boat with Rice. He's looked quite average this season. I know they've been a poor squad, but they're not going to get anywhere near that 120 million that clubs would have been willing to pay last year. So I think just like Harry Kane, I just don't think they're going to get that price anymore.
Yeah, but we said that with Kane at the start of when City were almost buying him. He started off shocking, and then he still managed to rack up some goals. I think he's probably.
We haven't heard anything. We haven't heard anything about Kane getting bought now. They've got Haaland. They've missed the boat. Hey, Tottenham could have been a challenging squad if they spent $150, $200 million on this squad to strengthen it. They've missed out on that boat, and I think they're going to miss out on the Rice boat.
I mean, with Tottenham, for example, I think they've showed enough, I think, this season to prove they can challenge. They're only a point behind Arsenal and on level points with City. So them keeping Kane
until they drop the bottle.
That's all Tottenham have ever done. Is just apply the pressure. There's no trophy for that.
Them keeping Kane seems like a masterstroke now because they've got that manager who he wants to work with. So, and they've got a decent team now. They've built quite a decent team. So they probably don't care about that. They don't need that 200 million they would have got for him. But like Tony said, I think with Declan Rice, West Ham could have used those funds more than Rice. As influential as Rice is to that team, is he worth 150 million to West Ham? You know what I mean? So, I think. But sorry, I want to speak on Everton real quickly. Do you guys think that Everton are performing decent enough this season? 7 points after 7 games, 4 draws in a row, and then they now go and pick up a win? Or is it still, again, is Lampard's job on thin ice still?
He's on the chopping blocks.
But they're playing like they're looking like it's their last game every game. I don't know how long they can keep it up for. Like they're not. Okay, I can't say they're playing bad football because they're not playing horrible football, but they're looking like they're playing that aggressive sort of game where they're just like, we're doing whatever we can to get a point, and it's across the season. It's just not going to hold up. How many last minute goals and they can concede, deflate that, and then they realize they're still in 15th, 16th. So I don't know. I don't know where I stand, and I still hate them, but they're not doing as shockingly as I expected to do, but they're not going to be up to the highlights that they never were.
Right. Well, to wrap up, I mean, all 3 of our team didn't play. Tony, the break for you guys probably didn't come at the best time. You're hitting some good form. Do you think it hinders your season? Does he think it's a little bit of a hiccup, or is it okay that you're going to come straight back after the international break and keep going well? Is it just more Ten Hag can work with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw from those first 2 games and then what Ten Hag did in another space of a week or two, the football we've been playing now. There is gaps, there is things to fix, but you look at the likes of Sancho not picked for England, Rashford not picked for England. These are 2 players that are going to be firing. Like, you give them another 2 weeks to work under Ten Hag with the rest of these players, and who knows, he could turn them into absolute warriors by the time we get back.
Yeah, I can agree. I think it doesn't make too much of a difference for your season. Morty, I think you could agree with me that the break is much needed for Chelsea and Liverpool, the way we've been playing football.
Someone needs to shove a stick up Trent's ass and throw him out. Nah.
Hey, look, Morty, are you going to admit that he can't defend? Can we admit he can't defend now, or are we just going to let him slide by still?
What?
Are we going to admit that Trent can't defend?
What do I have to admit for?
Well, you always say that he's a really good defender.
He's been really bad this season.
He's been really bad this season, yes.
And he's not even been that good going forward either. So, like you said, I think some of these kick it up him.
But we have Canate back, and I think that kind of shores up what we're trying to do. I think Matip, he's been good for us. Gomez, they've had highlights, but they haven't had that coverage. I think Canate is that coverage with some pace that is missing from when Trent goes forward. So I'll reserve judgment for his attacking ability. Yes, defensively he could do a bit more than stand there like a fucking street lamp, but actually street lamp does more. It actually lights up something. He's just a fucking he's a nothing. He's a pole. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, well,
I can't say he's what it is because he doesn't. He's not a defender. What do you
he's
say?
he's a right back.
But we haven't needed him. He had 16 clean sheets last season. That's more than fucking anyone else.
Look, it was meant to be Chelsea-Liverpool this weekend. So would I have liked to play is probably yes, given how you guys are going, but also we're not playing well at all. So I think
you're in worse form. So I'll say that.
This gives Potter more time to work with the squad and hopefully sort some things out and get his team playing well compared to playing with someone else's team. So that's what we'll end it on. We'll be back for match week 9, whenever that is. Hopefully Campo's on so he can brag about his Spurs team sitting in 3rd. But that'll be after the international break. So I will catch you guys then. Thanks again.
See this.